Hi, my name is Hananya.
Hello there, my name is Shameem.
And my name is Leslie. We're three international friends on a mission to write and publish our first novels. We are the three writing amigas.
Welcome back to our podcast, and this is part 2 of our discussion on the Antagonists.
And especially you, Hananya, because I mean, like the different, like, you know, the reason we all got together, the book you were writing, the story that's just gone forward for the, what do you call it, an anthology, completely different.
Yeah.
And I'm in awe of, like, you can just switch it up and just write something in a totally new genre, totally new voice as well, by the way, because obviously, because we've read it, compared different, everything is just so different, and the style is different, and the tone and the prose, everything is just brilliant. And I'm just seriously jealous again how you're able to do that. So which antagonist are we going to talk about for you?
I think I'll do like my historical romance kind of one, because that will be the one I will be working on going forward anyway. And for that, I have like my main antagonist that's like obvious, and then I have like an underlying one that we don't find out until like way later in the book. So, you know, let's try and keep that a little bit of a secret. But the main like visual one is definitely the king, because my like protagonist is the princess. So her father is the one that's kind of against her, or at least those two butt heads. And like his goal would be like to get her married off, find allegiance, like find alliances through the marriage, and like strengthen their kingdom, make sure she's taken care of, and kind of also protect her in a way. That's why, you know, he doesn't allow her to leave the grounds, and like he doesn't want her to go anywhere. He kind of wants to protect her. She doesn't see it that way, you know, because she sees it as like very restricting and like not being able to do what she wants.
Is his motivation really to protect her, or is it really to
both
use her as, you know?
So I think it's like two-sided. So the marriage is definitely like alliance based. But her not leaving like the palace grounds and stuff is very much so that he can protect her from like people that are there.
Is there a third one then, where there's maybe a subconscious element where he wants to keep her world small?
Maybe, but I think the main reason he wants her to stay inside is because his wife got murdered, right? So
I didn't know that.
Not did
I. Yeah, so Amelia's mom is dead, very much so.
He's ruled by fear in a way.
In a way, he doesn't want the same thing to happen to her. So he's trying to protect
dangerous times in terms of like what's going on in the kingdom, or what's.
I have to figure that out a little bit more. But I would say there is like a rebellion kind of going with like, why is this kingdom here? Like, why do we have a king? Why do we have a monarchy? Can we just rule as a people instead of having these people rule us?
It's pretty much what's going on in the UK today.
Or the United States.
It's never boring in the world.
Never boring in the world.
But yeah, so it's like, it's in a way to protect her. So not being able to go anywhere is to protect her. But she doesn't know her mom was murdered.
Oh.
So
that's going to be a reveal.
Yeah, so she knows her mom's dead, obviously, because she has a stepmother. But she doesn't really know the specifics on how her mother died. She thinks it was just illness or like something, but she doesn't know the specifics because her father never told her, and he doesn't want to talk about her mom. So
he's ruled a little bit by fear.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's savvy, it seems like. I mean, he understands that he has, you know, having a daughter during those times, she was a commodity, right? Because for alliances and things, you know, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, if, you know, when there's a rebellion and he knows that the tensions are rising high in the kingdom, he wants to find allegiance to, like, you know, strengthen his presence and like all that. So that's kind of why he's doing what he's doing.
And what does he lose? Like, what's at stake for him if he can't control her?
Losing her permanently, right?
Either through death or through
that she just runs away and never comes back.
Is there any greater, not greater, but like, you know, does he lose his kingdom, or are there any other tensions for him like that? You know what
I mean, if he doesn't find the alliance, like he won't have the strength to fight off the rebellion at some point, right? So when it comes to a war, he won't be able to do that. So he risks losing not only his daughter but the kingdom, like as a result, if he doesn't find allegiance and like strength in numbers, I guess.
Right. Well, no, it really was. Or it was like you married off, became in-laws so that the other people wouldn't attack you. Right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
That's another way to, and also because she's a girl, I think they pay a dowry probably, right? So he will also get riches.
Probably.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And it was hard being a woman. I mean, well, still is, you know?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the secondary option would be to marry his son off, right? But his son is like,
oh, he's
8.
got a son.
Yes, with the stepmom. So it's her half brother.
Oh, but is he the heir and the daughter? What's going on in there?
Yeah, so obviously it's the males that inherit the throne, not her.
Oh, very, very Game of Thrones.
So she's very much so like, I never asked to be a princess. I don't want to be here. I don't get the throne, so why would I care? So she's very much like that. But it's very common to have like a male. There's a difficult word for it that I never can pronounce, but like a preference kind of. That's what I'm gonna call it. There's like a different word for it, but
well, wasn't it Shameem? Because I watched the first season of The Crown, so I know the right thing.
Yeah.
But, right. It was, so Queen Elizabeth's father dies, but then it was actually his brother who became king, and then he abdicated, and then like the consolation prize, Elizabeth becomes queen, right? Wasn't it? I mean,
the other way around, wasn't it?
Yeah, the other way around.
Yeah, the brother was king. He abdicated, so then the father became king.
Oh,
yeah, it's okay.
Right. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Okay, well, all right. So then my argument does not stand. So
no,
there was no
but the
issue with her becoming.
But I think they brought a law in, I can't remember, to say that, you know, the girls, the women would also be in, you know, would have a succession, basically. They would.
So just then, though, in the 50s, was the first time they changed the rule or something?
I think the rule, I've researched this at some point. I don't remember the full details, but I think the rule is if there is a male, like direct line, so like the son, then that becomes the heir. No matter if he has older sisters, the male becomes the heir. But if there are no males in the line of succession, in like direct line, then the female can inherit the throne. And that is like how a lot of these like have been set up. They have changed a lot of them.
Yeah, because that rule has changed now in the UK.
I think in Spain they still have it.
Yeah.
Oh, in Spain it's the same?
I think they still have it. Like they haven't changed it. I know that, for example, in the Netherlands, they've changed it to be like females can inherit just like the eldest child. Doesn't matter what the, you know, sex is of that child. But in the past, it was always the oldest male, or if there was no oldest male, or like, you know, then it would be the female as like a consolation prize of like, okay, well, there's no male, so we have to have something.
So I just want to say, here we are again. We are writing 3 completely different books, and all of them talk about how men are ruling the world and screwing the women. And I don't mean sexually. I mean, right?
So who's the male that's screwing your world up?
Okay, my antagonist is not the male. It's her mother. But there is and we're going to talk about that in a different episode, our ancillary characters, whatever. But my main character, Letty, is being manipulated one step away by these men. Like her life, they're trying to control it. So, right, you got, you know, in Shameem's story, there's a guy manipulating her directly. In your story, Hananya, father manipulating directly. And in my story, one person removed, but nonetheless manipulating the life of the woman. I mean, the thing, right?
Yes.
And they're completely different stories. I mean, like, they couldn't be more different.
I know.
So fascinating. So fascinating. Just one last thing before we leave, viewers, if you don't mind, just because I'm curious. Now I'm learning more about your story.
Yeah. Ask away.
Oh, good. So are there any subplots for your king? Is there how, I'm just curious.
For the king?
Is there, yeah.
I don't know. I think the main plot is just trying to like secure his kingdom. And he's not like present a lot. He's just like trying to marry her off. But it's very much so her story.
Person, right?
Yeah, from her perspective. But yeah, I would say like further on as we meet like the secondary antagonist, that becomes a problem for the king.
Gotcha. Okay, so, then maybe that's okay.
Yeah, gotcha. It becomes like a whole thing. It becomes a problem for everyone. But yeah, also for the king. So
yeah, I'm not going to ask any questions because I'm going to take us down another path with mine. I'm going to wait until we talk about it in another episode. So.
Oh, because you're
intriguing.
You're talking about ancillary.
Oh no, I want to talk about like the new queen and stuff. So I just want to, but I just don't want to do any spoilers for you.
Right.
Oh yeah.
We'll get to that in the next episode. So make sure you stay tuned and listen to that when Shameem asks me about the queen.
That's right.
Anyway, back to you, Leslie.
Thank you. The queen in my story is Mama. So so Letty's 14 going on 15, and back then especially for not just Black folks but anybody who was more like working class, right? You didn't go all the way through high school. I mean, that wasn't, especially in a rural setting, right? So if you were lucky, like my grandmother, my real life grandmother, went through 7th grade. But she could read and write and do numbers like anybody. I mean, she was very smart, read the newspaper, cover to cover every day and, all of that. But back then, because they needed you to work, you needed to either help on the farm or whatever. So she's got this Mama, who is domineering, who is, really willful, and has her own ideas about how Letty's life should play out, which is, not uncommon even today, right? You have helicopter moms and all of that. And she's got some really strong ideas. And there's one moment, and I didn't pull up my book, but there's one moment where Letty says very early on in the story that, Mama wants me to be a maid like she was. And she's very clear on that. I have different thinking on the subject. So, boom, right?
Yeah.
Because we're at, it's early 30s, the Depression is definitely happening, but we're also, the industrial age, it's like we're becoming a modern society, right? So there are modern ideas. And even though the area and the country and whatever is still quite segregated, there's still little doors opening here and there for people of color, for women, for people who lived in a rural setting to do things that are more urban.
Yeah.
And so, Letty, she wants to have a modern life. She's Did you have?
Yeah, I was just wondering. So, does she want to stay in education, or has she got other aspirations?
Letty wants to become a secretary.
Oh,
and yeah, because
that was a big deal in those days, wasn't it?
Huge,
major big deal. Yeah,
huge, and it was one of the paths out of being a domestic, right? Either being like a farmhand or a domestic. That women and even women of color could do, right? And it would at least appears you're not getting your hands dirty. You're not, it's kind of like a step up, right?
Yeah.
And, her mother, one of the things that Mama always pushes is you got to raise your station in life. But Mama thinks you raise your station in life through marrying the right guy.
Yeah.
So Mama's still got her foot planted back in sort of tradition, even though tradition isn't necessarily like the nicest life and all, but it's known and therefore safe, right? Whereas Letty is, we've been through the roaring 20s. I mean, she's kind of a modern girl, despite, what Mama really wants her to be. So they're very much at odds about that. And then Mama keeps a lot of secrets. There are a lot of secrets in this family. Some of them are really sad and unfortunate, and there was violence, and there were things perpetrated on Mama that she wants to keep it from Letty to save her from having to know certain things, but also it's that she also knows that by letting some of these secrets out, it's not safe as a Black person, or especially a Black woman in the area in the United States at that time. There's a lot
of different dynamics then flowing around, isn't it, that are causing friction, but not necessarily born from a bad place.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And they may be misguided, some of them, but not, the kernel of it is not from a bad place. But, as a teenager, you don't understand that about your parent, right? All you see is you're old-fashioned, or you just want me to do what you did, or, and you don't also understand, Letty doesn't understand the real danger, of digging in and poking these hornet nests that she's going to poke, so she definitely doesn't understand why Mama keeps trying to have, these roadblocks. So, so that is Mama's big thing, and so, but Mama's also complex in that, on one hand, she's trying to keep her family, safe and, all that. But Mama also just really is pissed off at white folks. Let's just say, in general, Mama's mad, okay? So she pokes the bear too, which is sort of interesting, because she does things or gets things that Black folks in her time and everything probably shouldn't have access to.
Oh.
So one thing I can tell you, and this is kind of, hopefully sort of makes it all make sense. So early in the book, when you're going to first meet Papa, he's bringing home, so refrigeration, I think the other. I had to research refrigeration. So it turns out that refrigerators, electricity, bringing electricity to rural towns, and then the ability to be able to have a refrigerator, plus the fact that electric refrigerator being invented, all kind of happened in the early 30s, at least here in the States. So, so they have electricity, which is still new. But people had been still getting ice delivered by the Iceman, right? He would come with his cart and thing and bring the ice, and you'd have a cooling barn, not a barn, but whatever, I don't know exactly, like a cooling barn, and you put in there, and you would dry, all your meats were dried, and blah 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 blah. And you'd have an ice box, right? So the big thing of ice would go there, and then I think the food goes on the other side. So anyway, so she wants a refrigerator because that's what she can do now. Now she's a freaking maid, so she's not, you know what I mean? And so we meet, so we find this out. We start to find this out as we meet Papa. Papa brings home, he goes, they buy a refrigerator, and he has to go to the big town, and anyway, he brings it home. And one of the things she says to Letty is, now we don't have to deal with the Iceman who brings our ice only to the bottom of our hill.
Oh, wow.
Can't bring it up. Like somehow that will soil his boots. So,
Yeah.
So she's like, poking the bear, while she's trying to squish Letty down, saying,
Yeah.
don't poke the bear.
Yeah. I like the nuances though. I like how complicated life is for everybody back then. Right?
Yeah, and it is, right? It's there's booby traps everywhere, and there's but then everyone has their own agendas, about things. So it's all those little things that created different dynamics, back then. So, and then there's the fear, and there's society, and all that kind of stuff. But Mom is very strong-willed. She has her plan for Letty. Letty has her plan for herself. And it's hard when we have a saying. I don't even know how to say it. Don't throw bricks at a glass house or something like. Do you know that one? No.
I don't know.
This is when we know we're from different countries because we don't have the same.
People in greenhouses shouldn't throw stones.
There you go. And that's what it is, because Mama's got her own secrets, but then she's like poking the bear and then trying to control Letty over here. So then, of course, people start throwing stones at her glass house, and eventually, yes, it is going to.
But that's why the stories are going to be good, because of the complicated characters, same as yours, Hananya. Lots of dynamics going on. That's going to make it interesting, because nobody wants to read a story where, I don't know, boy meets girl, they fall in love and everything's just wonderful, and they're skipping through the meadows, and then they just go off into the rain.
Everything's just peachy.
Yeah, it's just bullshit. It's just bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not why life is.
No, but I think it's yours is a YA. Hananya, what's yours again? Yours is age group.
Sort of YA, I guess. I mean, my main character is 17, turning 18. What were you gonna say, Shameem? You've read some of it?
Well, yeah, because what's the age group then? You need to educate me. What's the age group? Because I was reading some stuff in yours, Hananya, and I just thought like, ooh, do you know what I mean? In my head, I was like, should children be reading this?
No.
So,
I get that.
Yeah, so what's young adult? What's the age groups? Just so that I know.
Right. But
I thought young adult was young. I don't know.
I don't know what young adult would be. Like 14 to 18?
It's pretty much 14 or 13 to 18 sometimes. But I'm gonna look it up for us right now.
Yours makes sense. Like Leslie, that yours is YA. For me, like, I don't know. I mean, the scene that you read, but it's it's gonna be cut, so it's fine. That is not gonna be there.
I want to read that.
Yeah,
you can if you want to. But I will cut it.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna say it should be. If it was a film, it would be above parent,
above 16.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, PG or something.
I don't know what your guys' ratings are. We just have like age groups, so we have like 16 plus.
Oh, okay. You have different ratings. It says it's 12 to 18.
Right. Well, people from kids from 12 shouldn't read this.
Well, it depends on what it is. Like someone 12 could read my book.
Right, but for like my book, I mean,
I don't
definitely not that scene.
I have not read
But
I think if I cut that scene, there's not a lot in the book that would be like shock. Like,
why is it? If you're gonna cut it, can we talk about
it? Sure.
Not in this one. Well, not in this episode, because it's
antagonists. We'll get to it at some point.
Yeah. All I'm saying.
It does involve antagonists.
It's a bit of an X-rated chapter that I read.
Yes. That's why we're cutting it.
Okay, you're cutting it, but we get to talk about it at some point.
At some point, sure.
So 12 to 18 technically is like the age group, but kids read above their age.
Right.
So like a 12-year-old would read my book, and maybe a 16, 17-year-old would read yours. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be definitely suited for the higher number of that YA group. I don't mean, like I said, if I cut that scene, cut that full chapter, It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, but you should look at also into new adult.
New adult, yeah. But I think it's more of a self-publishing category.
Oh, is it? Oh, you don't want that.
It's not really fully recognized, I think, in a traditional publishing setting yet. It might change in the future, but I think new adult is very much so a self-publishing category.
Yeah.
So
and we're all still going, our goals and ambitions are to go down the traditional publishing route.
Yeah. So then it would be technically YA. I would probably have to cut something else out of the book if I'm really gonna categorize it as YA. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
To figure that out first.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's cool. Yeah. So I'm starting to really dive into edit.
Okay.
So that's where I am, is to get myself completely set up. I got my Trello board, like everything's done, and to really get and I know this is old fashioned, but I feel like still I need to do it. Like I like to print out my entire draft and have all the notes and everything. And then I know it's like,
I get that,
but I can't do it all on the computer. Like I can compose everything on the computer, but
I can see why you want to do it, but it would absolutely, I don't know, just mess with my something or another to print my book and see all that paper and then wonder what I'm going to do with it. So
it's a spatial thing for me.
No, I completely agree though, because I still think there's details I miss because I'm not reading paper. I touched a book the other day and I was just like, oh, this is so nice.
I know, right?
Yeah,
it's a spatial thing, because sometimes when I have it and it's only on the computer, I don't where was that again, and I need to go back. I don't know. So I'm going to print it all out and be ready to seriously dive into my edit.
I just think it'd be nice to hold it as well. That's yeah. So when I finish my draft, I think I might buy some paper and whack it in the printer and print.
I just want to quickly tie in to you saying you print your book. I have my first draft printed, sitting on a shelf over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have, I think, my fourth draft printed, which is sitting in a cupboard right here. So I get
I feel better now. Okay. Believe me.
So but with that one, the first draft, it's the most hilarious story. Because I printed it on A5 paper, right? So nice book size paper, because I was like, I want it to feel like a book. And I printed it as if it was an actual book. Spent so long printing it, but I did it double-sided, like an actual book. So then came the problem of me having a binder that I liked and I was going to put it in, which is also an A5 binder. But it had irregular holes, I would say. So it has 2 and 2, and I was like, how do I do this? And obviously it was this thick, right? Because I have 100,000 words. So I was like, how am I gonna do this? So I was at my mom's house and I was like, you know what, paper is wood, right? So I'm just gonna drill a hole in it.
Oh no.
So that's what I did.
Oh,
yeah.
You were.
So I grabbed 2 pieces of wood, clamped my book in between it, really tight, and then carefully drilled holes in it.
So did the drill holes did it not go through the words? Did you not lose any of the words? No. You got big margin. You had a big margin.
Yeah,
then.
A book margin.
Oh, you really thought it through then. Fair play.
I formatted it and all.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just gonna drill. So my mom and I kept the little wood that we used as a guide, and it is signed. So just in case I get famous, we have it.
Yes. That's a good story.
Right. But yeah, anyway, sorry. That was it's just a little cute anecdote. I just had to share it.
Hey, listen, somebody besides me needs to digress sometimes.
Well, there you go. You're welcome.
And while we're digressing, I just want to point out that I've turned that plant around because of comments on that video from people that know me, that I had a drooping flower and apparently it looked like a phallic object. So I've turned that, because I've turned the plant on, and
Where are these comments?
I know.
they're saying it to my face. People,
No.
my friends, yeah. And I just want to add that they also thought it was hilarious that Leslie thinks Welsh accents sound like fairies. Yeah, it's just funny with the things that people look at when they're watching it on. Yeah,
Your friends, though, I think our friends are hyper. Like, if they didn't know any of us,
of course. And yeah, but equally, I was telling like some other friends about your friend who gave 3 pages of feedback. So I feel like I got off lightly with having a phallic plant, and I'm being fidgety.
I think that's funny. I think that maybe one day Hananya will write about Shameem's phallic plant. There's some kind of scene that they don't want to talk about that is too X for the
yeah, you're just jealous because I read it, so I know what it's about.
I am jealous. Okay, we really need coffee now. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Be sure to follow Hananya at Hananya Leclerc on Instagram and YouTube. Follow Shameem on Instagram at rnpinkhamauthor. And Leslie on Instagram at ld.feral.writer. Or catch all of us on YouTube at 3 Writing Amigas. Until our next hangout, keep on writing.